So what did y'all expect from this Carter 6 album? Because to me it sounds like more of what he's been giving people for all these years and what made people call him the GOAT in the first place. Now I don't put it on the same level as some of the other Carter albums like the Carter 3 or the Carter 4, but it still has the same subject matter and the same kind of punchlines and metaphors and wordplay that y'all love Wayne for. So let's just run through the album real quick. I mean, you got the King Carter intro, and it's pretty much a build-up track because he didn't really rap on it, and I'm assuming he played the guitar because it said that he produced it with some other people. And I heard that he was doing a tour for this album, so I could see him coming out onto the stage to this song. So then we get into the next track, Welcome to the Carter. And in my opinion, I think this is one of the better songs on the album. The beat is good, the sample is on point. It sort of sounds like Aretha, but I couldn't verify that, so we're just gonna say it's a good sample. I got a few call outs from the song. I do like when he stopped and said family first, family second, family third. Very simple, but it was close to the beginning of the verse, so it kind of made me feel pretty good about how it started out. So then we get to the part where he's talking about the laundry list of substances that he's gonna be doing. And he says, I'm smoking on a Purell no sanitizer. I was like, that's clever. That's what the people want to hear, right? He was talking his talk the whole time per usual. So then we get through the hook and Wayne comes back in on the second verse with some lines that he borrowed from Diddy.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Better now than never.
And it wasn't a direct lift because he said, hey, yo, my sun's gonna shine forever. And as long as we here, you might as well get your clouds together. Now, I was a little bit confused because given the time that we in and what's going on with Diddy right now, I was like, bruh, you digging in them crates for controversy. But what also confused me is like later on in the album, he slick dissed Diddy. But we'll talk about that later in the video. Another line that I found interesting is when he was like, don't be my man today and be the white man tomorrow. And what makes this interesting to me is how Wayne generally has avoided kind of race relation conversations in his music. He'll say a few things every now and then on some songs, but this is not his brand. And when you see him out in public and they ask him questions about this, in particular like BLM, where he was like, my life matters because I got all these white fans screaming for me. And even with the officer that picked him up, he was like, you know, officer, I think his name Dan or something like that. He really talked about that white officer that saved his life while the black ones didn't. So he's been very protective of white people and not trying to alienate his white fans. So when I hear him say something like this, I'm like, who are you calling out directly? Because this sounds like more of a thing that's personal for you because you don't portray yourself to be this way most of the time. You literally got pardoned by Trump. So what white men are you talking about? But anyway, we gonna move along down into the verse and he said, smoking that bomb LA like I'm McVeigh. And then he said, eat Lil Mama backwards like Mignon Filet. That's what I'm saying. The wordplay is still there. The song is on point. So then we get to the next track, Bells. Now when it started, I got real excited because I heard the sample.
LL Cool J is hard as hell.
And that's one of the most iconic rap records you're gonna ever find in history. Rock the Bells by LL Cool J is timeless. And I don't know who's watching this video. I don't know what age demographic is gonna check it out, but people under a certain age don't really know LL for music. But when I tell you this brother is so influential, like T.I. said, he started rapping because he heard the verse, nobody can rap quite like I can. I take a muscle-bound man and put his face in the sand. We had the phrase the GOAT because of LL Cool J. I actually bought the CD back in the day. Buddy had a 10-album deal with Def Jam that he actually completed. And he didn't limp over the finish line. He still had some hits. From Phenomenon, Mama Said Knock You Out, Hey Lover, Doing It, what's that, Head Sprung? And then that track that the Neptunes did for him, Baby Smile Today, 'cause I've been imagining romance. I'm gonna love you better. Clearly, I'm a fan, so I'm trying to see what y'all gonna do with this record. So when Wayne comes in and starts mimicking how LL was rapping, talking about LL Cool J is hard as hell, and then he said L.I.L. Wayne, I was like, oh, that's kind of smooth. But then when the beat drops, it just seems like a whole bunch of bass, like your trunk gonna rattle. And then they had like some slight little sounds that kind of brought in the remnants of the sample, but I guess they were trying to modernize it. Now, if I'm being honest, I was listening to the production a bit more than I was listening to him rap because I was trying to see, okay, what else are they about to do with this? But they ended up not doing too much to it. But if they have them, I would like to hear what the alt versions of the beat sound like. Maybe put some of that up on streaming too, because I would enjoy that. So when I was paying attention to what he was talking about, I was like, man, he rapping like he usually raps. So that was fine. The part that I did think about is when he started talking about smoking and he said, my eyes tight like Wong ding 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 dong. I was like, boy, y'all sure do say y'all look Asian when y'all get to smoking. But I be wondering how Asian people actually feel when they hear stuff like that. Maybe they care about it, maybe they don't. I just haven't heard too many comments about it. I also don't know how many Asian fans Wayne has. They may not even be hearing his music like that. And if they're in a country where English isn't their first language, they might not even understand the context of what he's saying. Overall, the song wasn't bad. It just didn't grab my attention like some of the other tracks. I think I would have been more interested if LL was actually featured on the song with him and had a whole different verse. He could have reintroduced LL to a different audience, as well as, do something that's just real hip hop and unexpected. The culture probably would have appreciated that collab. So as the album progressed, I recognized that a lot of the subject matter just stayed about the same for the most part. There were a few songs that were slightly different, which is pretty on par for a Carter album. The normal formula is him having a whole bunch of tracks with nice beats, wordplay, and he's talking about certain subject matter. I think it's maybe 5 or so topics. He's usually talking about the women and what he's gonna do with them. He has the conversation about the streets, so whether that's bringing up Pyru, whether that's talking about, weapons, any of that kind of stuff, even though unless that pardon cleared it all up or he cleared it up with a judge, he can't carry firearms because he's a felon. You got the money and all the opulence and what his wealth can afford him. He also talks about his family a lot, and then he talks about getting it out the mud and how he's the greatest. Those are the usual topics. And of course, you never gonna forget which Carter you listening to because he gotta tell you which one it is on a few songs. So I didn't really listen to other people's videos, but I heard a lot of people post online that they didn't really like it. So I'm guessing people wanted a different type of formula this time around. So when you get to hip hop with Big X the Plug and Jay Jones, it sounds like it's par for the course. Big X gonna sound like he been sounding. Hey. And Jay Jones showed up and showed out on the verse. Now, I didn't love the subject matter, but that's just my taste. That didn't mean the song didn't sound good. But then when you get to a song like Sharks, I'm actually more inclined to listen to this one based on the subject matter. Jelly Roll sounds good on the hook. And of course, Big Sean and Wayne had solid verses. Now, when we get to Banned from NO, I kind of skipped that one because that don't really hit me like that. And I sort of feel that way about The Days with Bono, but then I actually listened to the lyrics and I was like, the subject matter works for me. I like that it's talking about embracing what life is all about, what's important. I'm not too thrilled about the sound of the song, but there are times when lyrics kind of override a beat or whatever. We're gonna come back to this, but I also want to point out the fact that he used a line that he borrowed from Jay-Z.
Listen, first the fat boys break up.
I point this out now because I think the same thing he did with Diddy, he did with Jay. It's just later on in the album. We'll get there pretty soon though. And when I come to think about it, this could be either paying homage to Jay-Z or this could be taking a jab, because the next lines after he says, the fat boys break up. Now every day I wake up, somebody got a problem with Hov. And Wayne could definitely be one of those people that has a problem with Jay, and he alludes to that later on in the album. So then we get to Cotton Candy with 2 Chainz. Boy, I know the Plug hate to see rappers going into the studio because they know they finna talk about them.
25 lines on the dresser, ran up on the plug like a Tesla.
And I don't know why, but I love 2 Chainz. He just kind of seems like a chill dude. The song itself, Cotton Candy, it had a pretty fun beat. It was energetic. It was all about that white girl, that booger sugar. Not my favorite song on the album, but I would understand why people like it. It's definitely something I could see people dancing to. And then we find ourselves over here to Flex Up. And let me say that Wayne was rapping his ass off, especially on that second verse. But I think the part that stood out to most people is the hook where he said, I just talked to Hov and he said that he seen me. Same thing I heard when I talked to Stevie. Now Stevie in this conversation is most likely Stevland Hardaway Morris, also known as Stevie Wonder the GOAT, which would make the line sound like Jay-Z is either lying or he's phony. Either way, it's not a positive thing for him. Because one of the later lines was, I'm not effing with you, homie, flex up. In my opinion, I feel like Wayne missed an opportunity. Because you gotta think about it, when he didn't get the Super Bowl, there was a whole uproar from his camp as well as the fans. And then he did the whole video about this broke me, and I'm trying to figure out, what does that mean? That video exposed a vulnerable side of Wayne that we don't really get all the time. It's like whenever you listen to a Carter whatever, it's normally a lot of bravado. It's hard to get brothers to articulate that they were in their feelings about something on wax. Like, tell us what actually happened in that situation. But now you're leaving people to kind of interpret what you're saying when you could have taken the time to articulate a message that could have been a moment on your album rather than like a blip of a song. Because right after that, he went right into Island Holiday, which is pretty much his version of Island in the Sun by Weezer. By the way, I did not know the name of that song. I heard the song before, I just never knew what the name of it was. And then I went and watched the video yesterday, and one of the most liked comments said, this is the song that everybody knows, but nobody knows the name of it. Somebody was like, oh yeah, I call it the hip hip song. The other person said this is the holiday song, which is kind of funny to me. And Wayne's version of the song wasn't bad. It just shifted the sound and the mood of the album. I was like, are we going back to Rebirth, Wayne? Y'all remember that? Ground Zero still hit for me. I actually like when people play around, like experiment a little bit, have a good time. As long as it's cohesive with the album, I'm all with it. So right after we bounce out of this Weezer sound, we go back into like more of a hip hop vibe at the beginning of Low-Key's theme, and Rizzo and DJ Clue, Desert Storm, they did that beat, man. The production was great on that song. And when Weezy first started rapping, when the beat dropped, I was like, oh, that makes me think of this. But it wasn't that. And Weezy dropping bodies on this one. Rappers are always finding a clever way to say they're gonna take somebody out. He said put one in his head like a deep thought. One of the more clever lines on here is when he said Himalaya sucker down like pink salt. I was like, not you knowing what's in the cupboard, bruh. But my favorite part of the song is actually when the beat transitions from hip hop to rock. And right before the transition, he said,
I'm a blood little bitch, I'm a beat. Boy, no Diddy on blood. Don't you?
I'm a blood little bitch, I'm a beat boy. And then the rock drums come in and he says, no Diddy on blood, don't you? And that's the part where I had to pause and go back because I was like, what did he say before this, right? And I was like, well, I don't really see anything that made No Diddy a necessary thing to say here. The only thing that I could think of is maybe he tried to turn B-Boy into Bad Boy instead of the breakers that we all thought about. But No Diddy has a very specific connotation though. Generally when you use that phrase, you're saying like pause or no homo, we not on that gay stuff. Like that's what you're saying. So my question was, are y'all not friends no more? I thought y'all was cool. I mean, you even used one of his verses as inspiration for one of the songs at the beginning of this album. It just kind of feels like mixed messaging. Either you separating from the man or you not. But if we get back to the song and how it actually sounds completely, the song sounds great. So I feel like this track should have gone before Island Holiday. And the reason why is because I feel like it started out as like a hip hop kind of situation and then it transitioned into rock. So it would have made it an easier transition to hear Island Holiday right after this because you already went into a rock space. And then right after Island Holiday, you'll go right into If I Play Guitar. And speaking of If I Play Guitar, I actually like this one a lot. I would actually like to hear how he sounds more so with his regular voice on this one. The auto-tune wasn't really my favorite thing on the song, or if he just rapped the song instead of sang it. I think this is one of the stronger songs on the album, probably because it breaks up a little bit of the monotony. I like the smoothness and the softness of the music. It's not too dramatic. He didn't do too much. I think it was just right. So for the track just being on its own, I think it's pretty good. But when you're talking about fitting into the album, I don't know if it fits as well with the rest of the songs. But I still like the song. Now he did have some production and some features on this album that I did not expect. I messed with this Peanuts to an Elephant. I was talking to one of my friends and she was like, you know, Lin-Manuel Miranda actually produced Peanuts to an Elephant. And she said it actually made sense. And then I listened to it again and I was like, oh yeah, she's absolutely right. I wonder how that connection was made because it's kind of an odd pairing, but it worked out great for both of them in my opinion. Now there's 4 songs that stood out to me toward the end of this album. For starters, you got Rory, Being Myself, Banned from NO Remix, and Mama Don't Worry. So we gonna walk it back to Rory. This Cameron Carter ate down. Had me over here talking about, okay, I'm zooming in my Rory through LA. I said I'm zooming in my Rory through LA, Lamborghini. Baby, I ain't got no Rory or no Lamborghini, but that one was nice. I see promise in that Lil Carter. And then we get to Being Myself with the Queen Auntie, Dionne Warwick. I'm just being myself. The music is magical. Manny Fresh don't get enough credit for being a mean maestro for them millionaires, but to be putting it together. I think the song is perfect outside of Wayne singing with auto-tune. I already said his regular voice has a uniqueness to it. Somebody just get him some lessons because I feel like his natural voice would add some kind of richness to the song. But I'm definitely coming back to this track because I actually enjoy it a lot. So then we get down to the bonus tracks. And one of those tracks is Banned from NO featuring Nicki Minaj. The main reason I started listening to this one is because Nicki was on it. I just wanted to hear what she was going to say. She elevated the track. She's talking her talk like usual. You know, she's talking about whoever she wants to talk about. Shannon Sharp caught a little jab. He apologized with alacrity. And then at the very end of her verse, she took a shot at Jay-Z and Roc Nation. She said, NFL fire some people and then call us. Now sis, I don't know if they gonna call you because you did write quite the editorial after Wayne didn't get the Super Bowl bid. Said that man was in the house with Massa. You know them people read that, and you know they have an aversion to controversy. Now, she's totally within her rights to speak up on anything that she thinks is wrong. The main thing I disagree with her on was the comparison between Jay-Z and Colin Kaepernick. She said one took a knee, the other one took a bag. Honestly, both of them got bags. One got a bag for an undisclosed amount and went to Gag City because we ain't heard from him since. So essentially the NFL bought his silence because we didn't have any more information about what the owners were doing behind the scenes. And then they brought in the other one for a disclosed amount to clean up the mess. They were always gonna bring somebody else in for PR purposes, and Jay-Z just happened to be in the right position for that. And them bringing him in kind of makes his line on Ape Shit kind of true, because he said, I said no to the Super Bowl. I don't need y'all, y'all need me. And literally they needed him, or somebody like him, and that person's not that easy to find. What's interesting is Jay has been rumored to be doing the Super Bowl in 2026, but we gonna see about that part. Nicki don't care about none of that. On this verse here, she wanted Roc Nation to be reduced to rubble. Get them up out of here. And it's funny because Nicki is the boldest one out the crew. None of the guys had the courage to say what she said. Wayne barely did it on his own album. I think it's because she's from New York, and she is from Queens. You know them rappers from Queens be something else. You got LL Cool J, Nas, Foxy Brown, Nicki, 50 Cent. They have no problem naming names. And so when we get to the end of the album, there's one more bonus track, and that's Mama Don't Worry featuring Future and Lil Baby. And on my first listen, I was like, oh yeah, this one's out of here. Now, I don't have much to say about it. I just feel like it's a good song. Everybody did a good job. The content, the lyrics of the song actually stood out to me. So it was a good ending to the album. I feel like the bonus track should have been on the album from the beginning, and maybe you could have replaced 2 other songs. And just because I didn't say that I liked certain songs or talked about certain songs doesn't mean that I think they're bad songs. I just think some of those songs might not have stood out to me or might not have been for me. So overall, I think the album was okay. I didn't think it was great. I also didn't think it was trash. I think people are so hyperbolic nowadays that if it doesn't hit you right away, it's automatically not good. Sometimes you gotta let the extended release kick in for the full experience. So when I listen to music, I try to make sure I consider the fact that it is not that easy to make good music. People act like all you gotta do is hit a little button and everything will come out perfect. But that's not the case. I know Bruno Mars even talked about recording some of his biggest hits. I can't remember exactly which song it was, but I remember him saying it took him like a year to make something perfect. So I like to show artists a little grace. So rather than downing the artist's music on my channel, I could discuss ideas of what could have made the songs or the album better based on my own opinion. So to the people that were saying, hey, it's not that good of an album, what was your expectation here? As far as I know, the vast majority of the people that follow Wayne haven't been saying, oh yeah, you need to grow and develop as an artist. The thing that they did say is he needed to get his stage presence up to get the Super Bowl. But as far as albums go, y'all haven't really been pushing him to be a better artist in the studio, which is why this album's par for the course. I could tell you what I would like to see from Wayne. I would love to hear him do a concept album where he started from the beginning of his career and then got all the way up to now. I've been following him since before he had an album. He was on Juvie's 400 Degrees. He was on Chopper City in the Ghetto with BG. I would love for him to tell stories that we haven't heard. Just do maybe 10 to 14 songs. It don't have to be too long. And I know he said he doesn't write, but sit down, jot down your thoughts, really put this together and tell great stories. I feel like the fans would live for that. So when that Carter 7 drop or whatever you want to call it, the fans won't be talking crazy. Another fun idea that I have is him reimagining old music that he created, try to modernize it, bring Manny Fresh out again, have that man out here reproducing songs while you write different verses to your old stuff. That could be a real fun exercise. But that's just about it for my video. What did y'all think of the album? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Was it just okay? Feel free to share your thoughts down below. Also, hit that like button to help me in this algorithm. Feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when I drop new content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.